to you guys from a coaching standpoint about just the history of the series? Because all you guys, of course, were not born yet when the thing was going hot and heavy.
Yeah, we haven't necessarily had a coach go in depth about the history behind the rivalry, but it's well known, and it's one of those rivalries that's well known across college football.
Adrian, when you watch it back, how after the game, Ross mentioned he was a little disappointed with the pace running game not quite being where it could be. How close do you think that is to pop, and what do you see when you kind of have been reviewing the offense?
Yeah, well, I'll say this: I think we're close. Some of those runs, we just have to execute better. We need to, and that comes from all places on the unit, and we're close to getting it done, but it's not good enough right now.
You watch, like the Spencer Rattler guy, when you're watching college football as you do you really dial in on the quarterbacks and some of the special things they can do? What stands out to you about him as a player?
Yeah, well, I'd say I don't dial in on guys in that way, try and see the whole field. But Spencer, he's obviously an incredible talent. Guy can throw it all over the field. He has great legs, great arm, and he's one of the top players in the game. Pretty simple.
Yeah, you guys were shorthanded with pass catchers as the game went on last week. What did you see on film, or I guess how did you kind of evaluate how the guys who did play?
Yeah, well, they did their job, and they were where they needed to be. A lot of faith in those guys and the guys in that room, as well as Coach Lubick to get them right. So a lot of those guys interchange during practice, get lots of reps. So whoever's out there, I'll have faith in them to get the job done.
What do you think has been key to opening up some of the big plays in the run game and in the pass game so far this year?
Some of the keys to those big plays?
Yeah, they've come in good numbers this year.
Yeah, it's all about execution for our guys. All about execution and hammering home. Chipping away, and that's really the way the game works. So, getting the run game going is a key factor for us in the offense, and then deep shots. That was something we knew we needed to be better at, and having explosive plays on the offensive side of the ball.
Chancellor Brewington is still kind of making a name for himself here, still fairly new. How has he been able to have such success early on here?
Yeah, well, that's just a tremendous credit to Chance. The guy's a stud, not only on the football field, but just as a person. He originally came in here as a receiver, and when he was asked to move to tight end, he knew what he was doing day one, day two. Guy's just nails, so a lot of admiration for a guy like that who can come in and get the job done.
Adrian, what's the line between knowing when you've got to make a play and not pressing too hard, and how do you try to walk that?
Yeah, it's definitely a fine line, and one that I've probably been on both sides of in my time here. So I've said this a lot, but it's all about having trust, having faith in my training, having trust in the guys around me, and knowing that I'll be able to walk that line the way I'm supposed to.
Have there been games in your career that you can look back on and say, I tried a little too hard there because I thought we needed to get points or something like that? Do you remember any of those games?
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to really spend too much time on that, but definitely, there's definitely been a time and a place for me to go and evaluate that when I was doing too much, when I was pressing this or that or the other, but that's not really the space I'm in now, and I feel good about that.
Do you have a sense of in the course of a week when which receivers you're gonna have at your disposal? Like, I'm not telling you to tell me who those are, but is there a moment in the week, it's Thursday or Friday, where you're like, all right, at least I know who I'm going to be throwing to tomorrow?
Yeah, I'd say so, and it's not really something that I'm too concerned with. Whenever that happens in the week, I usually have a good idea of who those guys are going to be out there, and they're prepared. Like I said, they switch out and get plenty of reps during the week.
Adrian, how do you describe the significance of this week, playing a top 5 opponent, and like you mentioned earlier, the rivalry aspect of this, and it means a lot to the fans?
Yeah, it does. It means a tremendous amount to the fans and to us as players to be a part of this rivalry. It's the stuff I grew up wanting to be a part of. Simple as that. I'm from California, and I knew about the Oklahoma-Nebraska rivalry. It's big, and I'm really excited to be finally be a part of it.
Is it tricky when a guy like Oliver, who's maybe out a couple of weeks, to get back, on the same page with him right away, or is it like riding a bike? I mean, if you've worked all off season with him.
Yeah, well, I think there's a little bit of an adjustment period in all honesty, but that's on us. It's a mixture of both in my mind. Yeah, maybe we need to get a couple extra reps after practice, but still have done a ton of work over the summer and countless other reps that are added to that as well.
Adrian, you're in front of the team a lot. When you're perceived, I guess, from the outside as being a sizable underdog, is that a card you play or something you talk to guys about, or do you really not worry about, an us against the world type of shit?
Yeah, I don't really look into it that way. It's more of, we know what we need to do to win the game. Simple as that. Don't really play too heavily into the underdog card or things of that nature.
I was going to follow up there. I was going to ask kind of the same thing, but what has to happen for you guys to win a game? Samari said, I asked him not to play perfectly, and he said, not necessarily, but what do you guys have to do to win this game?
Yeah, well, we need to execute and start fast and finish. Start to finish, have to come play our game. Need to be able to run the ball, need to be able to execute, no turnovers. The stuff we've been talking about all year long as a team need to happen on Saturday. They're obviously a top 5 ranked team in the country and a very good team. So we need to come ready to go in all phases of the game.
You mentioned just starting fast, especially on the road in a magnitude game like this. That even make it more important?
Yeah, certainly. It's definitely important every game, but as you mentioned, on the road against a very talented team, we need to come ready to play from the jump.
Hey, Adrian, as you so memorably told us, you were born in the year 2000.
Yeah.
I feel like yeah. But you said that you still knew about the Oklahoma-Nebraska rivalry, even though you're from California. So how is that? Is it because you're a student of college football?
Yeah, I would say just a little bit of a college football junkie, growing up. I love the specials, you see them on ESPN, this and that and the other. But yeah, and Nebraska's such a storied program, I knew about the Cornhuskers and I knew about Oklahoma and I knew about the game. So part of it, I think, is because of just how much I care about college football, how much I love football in general. But it's a well-known rivalry and, again, something I'm excited to be a part of.
Where'd that come from? I mean, you're 10 years old probably the last time that these teams played.
I'm a big, getting into the weeds a little bit here, but I'm a big 30 for 30 guy. I love watching documentaries. I love watching stuff like that. So college football, Nebraska, Oklahoma, that stuff gets talked about, and I paid attention.
Anything else for Adrian?